Good day, everyone. I am Joan Lagno, and I will be the one who will present our conservation project entitled Conservation Project on Dicaium quadricolor or Cebu flower pecker. And these are the members of the group: Carla May Canono, Christine Eugenio, Rowena Lupac, and Gias Lara May. The Cebu flowerpecker or Dicaium quadricolor is a native bird of the island of Cebu in the Philippines. Dicaium quadricolor refers to the four colors that surrounds the bird, which includes blue, red, yellow, and white color. It considered as a holy grail of Philippine bird photography as it has never ever been photographed. Dicaium quadricolor species is part of the Dicaidae family of flowerpeckers. The flowerpeckers belongs to the family Dicaidae of passerine birds. Physical appearance of Dicaium quadricolor are known to be mostly small. These passerines are about 2.2 to 8.3 inches in length, and male Dicaium quadricolor has four colors on its plumage: blue-black on its head and wings, red upper back, yellow-green rump, and white on its breast. On the other hand, female Dicaium quadricolor has a brownish top and has short and stout beak for pecking and perforating leaves. Therefore, female plumages are duller than males. Reproduction behavior of flowerpecker is still not known very well. Their courtship rituals involve flitting around females, calling out to them, and fanning their tails. Reproduction behavior of flowerpecker is still not known very well. Their courtship rituals involve flitting around females, calling out to them, and fanning their tails. Reproduction behavior of flowerpeckers is still not known very well. Their courtship rituals involves flitting around females and calling out to them and fanning their tails. These species generally nest in pairs, and the descriptions of their egg is still unknown for some. Males and females share duties on the constructions of nest, incubations of eggs, and feeding of the young. The female usually lays 2 eggs but can able to produce 1 to 4 eggs. In fact, the incubations and nesting periods necessary time to take care of young birds unable to leave nest takes for about 15 days. The Dicaium quadricolor is observed to have a diet preference on mistletoe plants. In the last 2 years, the most common mistletoe species that frequently feed Dicaium quadricolor that is observed in Lugas Forest is Cebu mistletoe. Over the years, Dewan 2013 reported that the forest area where the Dicaium quadricolor inhabited was reduced to 0.03% compared to the last study being reserved to its original forest cover, and now continually being threatened by illegal settlement and construction, illegal logging, mining, and agricultural expansion that cause interspecific competitions between individuals. The species was listed as extinct in the first Bird Red Data Book in the 1960s and was placed on the International Union for Conservation of Nature Red List of Threatened Species. The bird's surprise rediscovery in 1992 resulted in the species reassessment as critically endangered in 1994. Since then, the Dicaium quadricolor are being managed and protected by some organizations in Cebu, such as for ecological profile of the bird. Cebu Biodiversity Conservation Foundation conducts activities on habitat rehabilitations of native species and forest protections to improve sustainable ecosystem. However, lapses of implementing still exist as few remaining forest tracts are threatened due to continuous illegal settlement, hunting, and road constructions that makes the wildlife dispersed to other forest land. And for the biological profile, Sikinanga Conservation's Breeding Center provide conservation plan to increase the populations of threatened passerine species through the release of captive bred birds into suitable protected wild areas. Then the Clatin Bird Society registered all the birds that have been produced with a closed leg ring to give verifications that these birds came from them. However, there are still gaps in providing future monitoring of the newly produced birds. The scope of biological conservation program was limited. It did not provide evidence report after a year when the birds disperse and proper time frame of the monitoring plan. Now, the group made this conservation plan that aims to achieve these following objectives. First, to provide awareness to the people about the existence of the Decayum quadricolor in their community. Create strategies to prevent the present threats to the biological and ecological profile of the Decayum quadricolor. And third, to evaluate the gaps of existing Decayum quadricolor conservation programs. And lastly, to generate a conservation plan that supports the population growth of Decayum quadricolor. To fulfill these objectives, we use descriptive type of research in gathering and analyzing the data that was used in uncovering the ongoing threats of Decayum quadricolor, showing the geographical distributions of Decayum quadricolor and its current remaining population, recognizing the existing conservation programs that includes effective and ineffective implementations of the plan and gaps regarding the threatened species laws, ordinances, and policies. Due to these continuing threats of this pandemic, we cannot go to the actual site to perform this conservation plan. So, we referred only to the information gathered from online sources that is related to this species. And the collected data from online reliable sources is then subjected to analysis, and we interpret it by using figures, tables, and diagrams that summarizes the informations being gathered. So these are the informations that we collected from online sources. Figure 1, it shows the Philippine map and the locations of Cebu in the Philippines, which is emphasized with the box. Meanwhile, the second figure shows the detailed map of Cebu where the Decayum quadricolor inhabits. The geographical distributions and protected areas of Decayum quadricolor are in the places with red circles. According to the Survival Blueprint of Rintar 2019, the Decayum quadricolor inhabits the little remaining natural forest with an estimated 1,000 hectares over limestone in Tabunan Forest in Central Cebu Protected Landscape, Babayungan Forest in Dalagati, and Nogas Forest in Alcoy, which is the largest forest in Cebu and of the species where it is found in the forest interior and edges, specifically on areas with flowering and fruiting endemic plants. So this figure, figure 3, shows the present threats to Decayum quadricolor in Cebu, Philippines. These threats impact the species by further reducing its habitat. Among the major threats, illegal harvesting of woods and road expansions in Nugas Forest in Alcoy were considered to have critical and highest impact on the species in the area. This was particular in Nugas Forest in Alcoy, where the local road was expanded and became a provincial road to improve the transport of goods, particularly vegetables from Nugas. Other threats may have an unknown, low, and medium impact that still brought stresses to the species and caused ecosystem degradation in the area. This figure number 4 illustrates the strategic conservation plans and activities done by different organizations, provincial and local sectors in order to protect the remaining species in the area. Due to major threats of illegal cutting of trees, these conservation strategies targeted habitat rehabilitation activities, protecting the forest and managing the species present in the area. Similarly, they also provide policies in monitoring the diversity in the area and even allocate local forest wardens to conduct forest patrols to stop the illegal activities in the forest. And most importantly, they continued to introduce the presence of the KM quadricolor by delivering information regarding the species specifically to decision makers and the local communities in Cebu. It was important to let them know about the species and the projects to pull in possible resources and unite for one common goal to protect Cebu biodiversity and the Decayum quadricolor. Although most of the existing plans showed positive impact, there were still gaps in these plans, and one of them was the lack of manpower to implement these activities, and by promoting ecotourism, it can still affect the forest conservations and the wildlife in the area. In order to further conserve the species of Decayum quadricolor, the recommended conservation plan should widen its scope to the different forests that this species was cited and recruit volunteers from the different sectors to participate in protecting the biodiversity of Cebu. So those are the data that are being gathered and the findings regarding to the status of this Decayum quadricolor, though exceptionally restricted, it underscored the global significance of this biodiversity and provide solid evidence of the extreme threat it is underscored to create a more effective conservation plan. However, a multiple data shows that Decayum quadricolor was thought to have been long gone but was rediscovered in 1992. Despite its discovery, there were only a few sightings of the bird species and is believed to be critically endangered with only a tiny population surviving. According to a study of Rintar 2019 stated that few surviving species inhabits the little remaining natural forest over limestone in Tabunan Forest in Central Cebu Protected Landscape, Babayungan Forest also in Dalagete, and Nugas Forest in Alcoy. Moreover, the population declines are now likely to be fairly slow because so little forest remains. So this data actually shows that the populations of Decayum quadricolor are being affected by its habitat. In general, though multiple rehabilitation and conservation programs generated, lapses of implementing still exist due to limited occurrences and distributions. However, researchers came up with the recommendations that focuses to more effective conservation plan that focuses on Decayum quadricolor and continue to raise funds for support, and given this chance, this project has great incentive to succeed. Analysis shows that a number of specific lines of research needs to be improved the existing conservation plan in Decayum quadricolor, and that includes first to focus at poorly known sites, establish ecological investigations and population monitoring in a large scale, regulate vast research regarding its status, and improve strong law enforcement and increase investments in existing conservation projects. That's all for today's presentation. Thank you everyone. God bless and keep safe always.